did we have some interesting tournaments this week. So I wanted to do a video covering the most recent tournaments we had. We had Tengu Plant Takeover 9 as well as Tengu Rumble. So Tengu Plant Takeover is our monthly tournament we have in the Tengu Plant Discord. And again, we had a bit of a small turnout. I think there's been a lot of events happening, so like things are overlapping and it's getting a bit sussy. But we had, yeah, so we had Tengu Plant Takeover 9. The whole thing was streamed on my channel if you didn't catch it. So we'll go over that. We're only going to go over the top 2 decks because it was so small. But then we have Tengu Rumble, which honestly had quite a few participants and had an absurdly interesting top 4. So I'm really excited to get into that as well. So we'll take a look at the metagame breakdown. The first thing we have to talk about is, you know, just like I said, it was a pretty small tournament, so you literally can see everything on the wheel. It's 2 Tengu Plant, 2 X Saber, 1 Hero Beat, 1 Agents, 1 Scrap, 1 Unicorn Control, 1 Gigavice, 1 Flamvel, Dragoonity, and 1 Crystal Beast. So, oh, and 1 Gen X, my apologies. So yeah, there was a lot of these decks. I got to catch quite a few of them on stream because it was like such a smaller event. But yeah, we'll get into the top 2. The first one is going to really surprise you. This was crazy. We had Janky with Unicorn Control, or like a Fabled type deck. I don't know what you'd necessarily call this, but it's really interesting. We called it Dark Bug because stream was hype about Dark Bug. But yeah, this is basically almost like a slow, grindy, Chaos Fabled type deck, and it performed really well, all things considered. Like, it was honestly impressive. It was just kind of abusing Tour Guide to get to Kushano, and then Kushano could occasionally make a discard play, which was pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, I don't really know what to think of this list because, I mean, like I said, it just performed surprisingly well, and because of that performance, it makes you curious about what this could do in the future. Because honestly, when I was tampering with Fabled recently, I've kind of been messing with Fabled again. I was kind of looking towards a slower, grindy build rather than the special summon heavy, super weak to Max C version, which this is like how you cover those bases. So you kind of play around Kushano as your main engine card, and then you just kind of like slowly whittle at your opponent while maybe splashing some chaos in there. And I think it's really a really smart list. It's really cool to see, but I'm interested to see where it goes. Because again, this was a smaller tournament, so it's like not a crazy statement for this deck to like say like, oh, this is really good. But it did perform really well against a lot of like decent decks. So yeah, super interesting to see where this goes. But now we'll get into first place. So for first place, we had the Paprika just running a good old-fashioned Tengu Plant build. For the most part, everything's standard, but the one thing I'm noticing right out the gate is we have Compulsory in the main deck. I'm not sure why. Like, again, I feel like both of these could be D-Prison, it would just be better. 1 Econ also is a bit sus, but, you know, some people, you know, it's like a playstyle preference for Econ. But Compulse, I feel like, is super hit or miss in this format. Like, I am personally not a fan of it because there's so many cards that just doesn't hit. It does improve the hero matchup in the main deck, or, like, you know, just in the head-to-head right out the gate. 3 Thunder King is fine, but yeah, I don't know. I just think it's like a pretty interesting take to go for Compulse in the main deck. But other than that, it's, you know, it's kind of your standard Tengu Plant list. Nothing too crazy or different. Did look really good on stream. Went undefeated throughout the tournament. So just another standard tournament performance by Tengu Plants. And like I said, not much too crazy unique about it. I'd say the most unique thing is just the Compulsory in the main, which, like, again, I'm just confused why this was there over D-Prison. But we can move on to Tengu Rumble. And Tengu Rumble, this is the multi-day event that takes place in the Tengu Plant Discord. It's like, you know, you have 72 hours to play out your round. That way you have time to, you know, play, and you don't have to do it all in a single day. So if you guys are interested, I'll put a link to the Tengu Plant Discord in the description below. You can participate in either of these tournaments through that Discord. So it's pretty cool. But yeah, we'll talk about Tengu Rumble. So Tengu Rumble, we had a metagame breakdown of 3 Tengu Plant, 3 heroes, 2 Beat and 1 Diva hero. We had 3 agents, 2 Jurax, 2 Piper Chaos, and then a bunch of one-ofs, you know, like Car Curry, Zombie, Frog Monarch, Light Swarms, Worms, Gigavice, Beast Fabled, Dragon Turbo, Gladiator Beast, 6am, Machina, Iron Chain, Dragon Turbo, KFC, Unicorn Control, Alien, and Falcon Punch. So whole variety of other decks thrown in the mix here. We do see your standard, like, you know, Hero Beat, Tengu, those are still being seen. Agents are up there as well. It all makes sense Interesting to see Piper Chaos kind of come back on the rise. Chaos has been falling out of flavor for a hot minute, and honestly, like, I still don't think Chaos is bad. So it's interesting to see that people are starting to play this again. But yeah, we'll get into this top 4 breakdown, and honestly, it is absurd. It is like the craziest top 4 I think I've ever seen. So third, fourth place, we had Wabi Adam, who was running Worms, and this is like a similar list to the one that they ran before. It seems a bit more optimized this time. I noticed that they cut Carteros, which they were talking to me in DMs about, which I think is really, really interesting. And they said it's just super weak to Thunder King and probably the worst worm, and I think I agree. Talked about how Fossil Dyna is just like the best card in here because you can use it with W Nebula Meteorite to not only like potentially Raigeki your opponent's field during their turn, but also turn off their special summoning. So it has multiple functions with Nebula Meteorite, which is really cool. So I do find that's kind of interesting. It does make sense as like a kind of cool way to blow out your opponent with like a flip Fossil Dyna at the right time. And then opting for Tour Guide in the main deck with like BLS, which I think is, honestly, this is probably just way better than Cartero, so I don't even disagree with this. I think this is really solid. One thing Wabi Adam mentioned is they had to like drop out of the tournament in the last round, so they didn't get to finish out, but they do feel like this is like the best iterations of Worm they had ever ran, which is really cool. So yeah, definitely an interesting list. Super stoked to see another Worm make top 4. I want to see Worm get a bit higher, so it sucks that, Wabi Adam had to drop out. But yeah, this is a really cool list, and I would like to see more of it or see more of it in the future, like more people trying Worms, because he did mention that Worms is just like one of the strongest decks in the format to him, or like at least this build is one of the best ways to approach it. So that's really, really cool. Moving on to third place, we have McEagles fan, who was running Kara Curry. Interesting enough, they opt for Upstart Goblin, which I'm personally not a fan of in a deck that you're trying to OTK in, but maybe it worked out. If McEagles fan is watching, then I'd like to know like what your take on the Upstart was. But I've seen McEagles fans running the Kara Curry quite a bit. He joined the Church of Kara Curry, and it's been working out. I also respect the 3 Nasamu. I think that's a good call. I was preaching about this a while ago, and I'm glad to see McEagles fan picking it up, because this is just like, in my opinion, the best Kara Curry to run. And then, just going for like the 3 MST Solemn. And then I guess the one thing about Upstart is it is also fodder for Landois as well, so that's kind of cool. It's like either draw what you need or be fodder for the Landois, which is kind of sick. But yeah, this list honestly looks pretty similar to mine. Or my OG one, minus the Upstarts, and then not like running Gores and over like a third Baylor is kind of unique. But I do think this list looks really, really solid. It looks really good. Respect to the Chaos Trap hole on the side. I really like the side deck too. I think it looks really, really clean. So overall, really great list. Great to see McEagles fan kind of rising up with the Kara Curry, always coming in with it and always kind of proving that it's still a very strong and dominant deck. So I'd love to see McEagles fan continue to grow with the deck, because you can see them running it like almost every tournament. All right, moving on to second place, Lay Murphy with Dragon Turbo. Now, I think this is like the first top Dragon Turbo has had in this like Discord, or in, I mean, like, I don't know historically if it topped, but I've never seen this deck perform well. Dragons in general have always fallen short. So really, really crazy to see Lay Murphy top with this. Lay Murphy mentioned that he didn't really go against a lot of like hand traps or Thunder King, which he thinks kind of boosted the decks. Like a lot of his opponents weren't maining Thunder King and stuff, which like really helped. But one thing he talked about is he decided to run this small Dragoon engine because, similarly to Edison, where you have triple debris, you don't have that here. So to make up for it, he basically Dux is a searchable debris off of Ravine, which is why he's running Dux in like Phalanx package, which I think makes sense, is really smart. But yeah, this is a really cool deck. I absolutely hate that you opted for 3 different forms of Blue Eyes. You got to keep that shit consistent. It's driving me nuts. It's like using mix max rarities. I could never do it. But yeah, super sick to see that this deck like performed well and actually did a lot. I think Lay Murphy also mentioned something along the lines of cutting terraforming for like a third Ravine or something like that, just because of the fact that there's a lot of times where both Ravines would get outed and then he would need the third. So that's another thing to note if you are looking to like give this deck a shot. But yeah, super, super interesting list. I also like Lightning Vortex. I think this card's kind of underrated in the format. I like that in the side deck. But Yeah, that's super cool. Super crazy to see Dragon's top. I literally never thought that that would happen. Or like I haven't seen anyone like come close. So the fact that Leigh Murphy took second place with it is just insane to me. That just kind of speaks to Leigh Murphy as a player. And then moving on to first place, and it doesn't stop getting crazy from here. We have Lightsworn taking the entire tournament, going completely undefeated throughout the whole thing. This is Extra Power's Lightsworn build, so Extra Power ended up going through playing. I mean, I think the duality is really kind of bizarre. Other than that, like Gold Sark makes sense going for like trying to search JD or Heavy Storm. Basically, he talked about how he was trying to reach his missing piece at every stage of the at every stage of the game. So you just either try to get your Judgment Dragon to hand or get Heavy Storm, so then you can, you know, reliably summon Judgment Dragon and just OTK with your big boys. But yeah, this is pretty unique. Just it's unique to see the double wolf and then like double Raikou. But I do really like the build. I like that this actually managed to work. I don't it's like really rare to see Lightsworn perform well, let alone win a whole tournament. But we've actually had Lightsworn win twice now, so Extra Power definitely making a statement that Lightsworn's a lot better than maybe people give it credit for, because yeah, the fact that it managed to win the whole tournament is honestly really impressive to me. This build does look really sleek and clean. Again, I just don't know how duality works. I guess you can theoretically, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but you can resolve the duality in the end phase before you mill, so then you can mill and still special summon Wolf if you duality in that turn. I'm pretty sure that's how it works, but I'm not 100% certain. But yeah, absolutely crazy top four, guys. Literally Lightsworn, Dragons, Curry, and Worms. And then we also had Fable Control. I mean, Tengu Plant's pretty standard. Like that's something you tend to expect, that, you know, it'll pop up here and there every now and then. But like the rest of this was just insane to me. So super excited to see people branching off into more strategies. That's really baffling to me, like really unique to just see like all these like weird decks kind of popping up. Like I'm excited to see how far decks like Dragon Turbo and, you know, Lightsworn can go in like future events, maybe seeing something for Tengu Mania. Would love to see more of these things kind of coming around, because it is really sick to see. So other than that, guys, that's gonna wrap it up for today's video. Real quick, we're gonna take a moment to shout out the Patreons. We have Sven Olbrehend, Brian Ford, and of course we got Photo Shooty coming in supporting the boy here. Really appreciate your guys' support, so thank you so much for that. But other than that, thank you so much for watching, guys. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, and have a great time doing today.